Sattler Files.
Welcome back to the Sattler Files, and this is Lifting the Lid. We go to places that some people think might be a bit taboo, things that we want to know but we're afraid to ask, and that's why we bring Daniel McKeig from Purslowe Funeral Homes into the studio each week to discuss different aspects of death, dying, burial, and all the bits and pieces that go with it. Welcome back, Daniel.
Good morning, Despene.
Now, today we've covered so many things in different segments when we've been doing Lifting the Lid. And what's to me, I think is very important, is the wake, not just the funeral service. The funeral service, yes, then combined with the wake, because if it goes off well, if the service goes off well, people get closure. It's been, it's a comforting thing for the family and for friends too, isn't it?
Look, wakes are an important part of the whole process because you hear the stories during the funeral service. You've told a million stories beforehand as you're going through the grieving process and doing the arrangements and those type of things. But it gives other people the opportunity to share their stories.
It does
with the
indeed.
person, with the family.
In my Greek culture, what happens is we don't have cremation, we have burials. So go to the church, then you go to Karrakatta or wherever. Then you go usually back to a family home. And the first thing they do as you walk in the door is they give you a shot of brandy, a Greek coffee and a glass of water. The brandy for the shock, the coffee to lift your spirits, and the water to hydrate you. And that's what happens at every Greek funeral. It's always done. Always done.
If you have a look at the Macedonian community, they do it at the graveside.
They actually do. I was just going to say that.
So you walk around, everybody has a shot. Even the staff have to have one as we go through.
Yes, no, they have chocolates. They have chocolates and alcohol at the burial ground. So they're having, which is really quite lovely. It's like you're having your last drink with that person.
It is.
And toasting them on their journey to wherever.
Wakes are becoming far more innovative, as are funerals. The amount that we got work now with putting innovation and personalising funeral services, we're also there to be able to assist and help families put together their wakes.
Because it's not just a matter of dispatching the body. Let's go back to the actual service where eulogies are so important.
They are. Eulogies are an opportunity for us to be able to tell a life story. We've only got a limited amount of time, and there's only so much that you can bring into it.
No, you can't bring in, four people speaking for 45 minutes. There is a time frame. What's the correct length of time for a eulogy?
Look, I always reckon that any person speaking for more than 7 minutes flat out, people start to lose a little bit of concentration. So I think if you're going to have a story that's going to be longer than that, you share it amongst people. You do, you might have 2 or 3 people getting up and being able to do that because you'll keep people's attention through the service.
What happens when you're frightened? What happens when the person giving the eulogy might be a very good speaker and might know the deceased very, very well and is the obvious choice, but might freak out at the idea of standing up in front of 400 or 500 people?
Well, I used to always say to people to make sure they've got it written down. Don't try and work off notes because therefore the minister or celebrant or someone else can stand up and finish delivering it.
And that happens quite a bit where someone's overcome by emotion. They thought they could do it, but when the time comes, they can't.
That's very true. We've just about to launch a new innovation when it comes to being able to assist families do that.
Oh, what's that?
We've got together with a producer who can actually come into people's houses and prior to the funeral service help them put together the eulogy, but also record it live, so that rather than them having to stand up at the funeral service with, the magic now of big screens in most of our funeral homes and cemetery chapels, we can put on a DVD and that person, while they're even sitting in the crowd, can deliver the eulogy, in a manner which they feel is appropriate and not
and
scary.
If they make a mistake, they can start again and refilm it,
redo it
until it's perfect.
Exactly, and surprisingly, it's very cheap for us to be able to do. So if you've got, it's very hard for grandkids, young people to be able to stand up in front of a lot of people. It's beautiful to be able to get a whole pile of kids together and let them talk about grandma, grandpa, and, film that in a way which is very enlightening.
Because at that point when they're filming, the children haven't grasped the full extent of what's happened.
No, so you get the jokes, you get the smiles.
You get the best bits.
You're not standing there looking at mum with tears in her eyes, in the front row, which sets you off and gets you upset. And those
you only have to. I know it doesn't take. It takes only one person to set you off when you think you're in control at the funeral, and then you look at somebody and think, "Oh my goodness," and the tears come.
It's very true, and we've got to continue to be innovative. We've got to be able to make sure that as funerals and the community evolve, we evolve around that, and we can use all the new modern technologies coming up. And our chapels have got amazing facilities in them. Everything from, most of them being able to webcast, to be able to bring in people
who are overseas.
Yep, to be able to Skype in people that are delivering eulogies overseas. Mm-hmm. For people to be able to listen, to be able to see, to partake. The world's a small place now when technology is available.
Oh, it's a very small place, and it's very hard to just pick up your life in a matter of a day or two to fly across the world to attend a funeral that you should be at but can't get there. But if you can be included in a webcast, that must make it so much better for people.
A lot of people can't travel too. Health reasons.
Well, as they get older, they can't.
So we can include them into the funeral service now, and we're able to make sure that anybody who really needs to be there has got the opportunity to be there.
And is that popular?
Look, it's becoming more and more popular. The services have been around in a format for a little while, but the technology is getting a lot better now, so that we're able to do things in, a lot better streaming, and a lot better visuals, and a lot better participation.
And you can edit them. And do you do that?
Yeah, we can edit them
if they want them
for post produce.
Yes.
So if you want to have it left up there for a month for people to be able to watch or see, we can edit that up again.
And you've got another thing too called Heaven Address, haven't you?
Heaven Address is amazing. It's a online memorial service.
Again, for people who may not be able to get to the service.
Yep, and we offer that free to all of our clients and their families. And it gives you the opportunity to be able to, I always say it's a little bit like Facebook for the dead.
Yeah.
Because you can get on, you can share stories, share photos. It's all vetted, obviously, and the family have to approve whatever goes up online. So it's got that security aspect as well. But you can get on anniversaries and light a candle. If you think of something and you want to share it with the rest of the community, a little story that come out that somebody told you a month later, you can get on and you can share that story.
And that's usually when you hear these things. I know when my mother passed and my father passed later on, people would come and start telling me a story that I'd never heard before, and it's a real comfort. It really is a comfort to hear those stories. Once you've got past the grief and the shock, I mean, you never get over the grief, but once you're not so raw, then you can talk about them, and you want to talk about them.
Look, and it's a beautiful forum to be able to do it. Quite often people are a little bit shy to approach the family in that month or two afterwards too.
I know, but isn't that the curse of it? Because that's when the family needs you more.
Exactly.
They don't, everyone turns up before the funeral. They're there for the funeral. They're there for a few days after, and then they go back to their lives. And the family are left sort of, well, hang on, what's going on here? I've lost somebody, and everyone else is leaving me alone and ignoring me.
And that's a little bit of our aftercare service as well, making sure that we're there so that we follow up with the families. We're making sure that they've got a conduit to someone to speak to if they need to. We're there to be able to help them and put them in touch with the right people, to be able to do things like administer estates, to be able to get in touch with a counsellor or a community group that they can go and see, and those type of things. So if they are feeling a little lonely, they've got someone to be able to go to and be able to have that chat.
Well, because grief, there is no measure for grief, is there? There's no time frame that's right. There is no right way to do it or wrong way to do it. It's totally individual and how people cope.
We still have families come in and pop in and just have a cup of coffee 1 or 2 or 3 years later,
that's lovely.
as they're coming past, because they They've built that friendship.
They feel that bond.
Yeah. So, and we're happy for them to be able to come in and do that. That's part of who we are, and that's why we're in this business.
Mm-hmm. Now, we know that you work with in any framework that is put in front of you, whether it be a church service, whether it be a graveside service, or practically whatever people want, isn't it, these days? Whether there's a priest there or a celebrant.
Every funeral is different, and every funeral should be different because it should really reflect the person.
It's not a cookie cutter.
It's not. We can do funerals on boats. We can, have horse-drawn carriages. We can take our hearse down the quarter mile if that's really what people want to be able to do. And I always say to all of our staff, be innovative. If you go somewhere that looks like it might be a great place to be able to have a funeral service,
let us know.
Yeah. Share it with your colleagues. Take some photos. Speak to the management of wherever that may be.
Or the council or wherever.
Get some ideas of what you can do. We've done funerals in amphitheatres, football ovals, all of those type of things down on the beach.
I think, do you remember Hollywood?
Yes.
His was in the amphitheatre.
It was.
You probably did that one.
We did.
It was a great funeral. Yeah, it was the best send-off. He would have loved it.
And to be able to, put that type of venue in place is not difficult for us. I guess everybody thinks that, well, it is. It's a huge amount to plan before a funeral. It's the same as trying to do a wedding, but doing it in a very short, in
the space of a week. What normally should take a year to plan, weddings take ages to plan.
Because you've got everything from the ceremony to food to wakes to...
And making sure that people are notified, making sure with the way things are with the media and online press, people don't get the West Australian as much as they used to. So if they miss the funeral notice in the paper, they may miss it altogether. So that's where Facebook and things like that do come in handy.
I'm a bit of a believer that probably the West Australian doesn't have a lot of life left when it comes to funeral and death notices.
Well,
things like heaven address.
You can tell by just looking at the sheer drop in numbers that people aren't using that as the go-to.
One of the good things about Heaven Address is if we put the funeral service up on Heaven Address, it comes up first in Google.
Yeah.
So you can just type the person's name.
That's right.
And then all the details are there for you to be able to share and see.
And it's free.
And it's free.
Because, a death notice of decent length, you're looking at hundreds of dollars.
Oh,
it's exorbitant.
Try putting it in on a Saturday. You're looking at sometimes, $400 or $500 just for a funeral notice.
And well, of course, and the funeral home have to put their notice in.
And then obviously if you've got lots of death notices that people want to tell their story in the paper, those add up to thousands of dollars if you've got one or two columns.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, if it's a well-known person who with a lot of friends and family, it can be an enormous cost.
Where, it's only in print for one day. Something like Heaven Address, it stays there forever.
Is it there forever?
Yeah, it's there forever.
No one ever takes it down.
No one ever takes it down. And, obviously if families want it taken down after a period of time, it's certainly up to them. But we've got lots of different communities that are set up within Heaven Address. So if you're a member of the RSL, for instance, you can press a button and go to the RSL side of things. Okay. If you're a member of the police force or the fire brigade or
the medical profession or whatever. Yeah.
We've got all these different groups set up too so that you can actually keep in touch with, say, your old fraternity, and you'll know if one of them passes away because it'll come up in that particular section and you can get notified and all of those type of things. So it's a lot easier than trying to buy the paper every day and flick through those sections.
Because it's so important. There's nothing worse than finding out after the fact that somebody's passed away and you really should have been at that funeral, but somewhere along the line no one's told you or you've missed the notification. Yeah. And you feel gutted because you should have been there.
And now you can still participate. You can be on holidays now, still participate in the funeral service by using different mediums as we've discussed.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's so important. But you are always, death is inevitable, as we say all the time, but it's amazing how you are always looking for innovative ways and different ways to service your clients in the best possible way.
The funeral service has remained the same for decades. And I guess really over the last 10, 20 years, we've taken that to a new level.
A different level altogether.
And look, if a family wants something that's very, very traditional, by all means, we can supply whatever they want. But if they want something that's a little bit out of the norm,
so long as it's not illegal or against council bylaws, you'll do it.
As long as it's not illegal, we'll work with the councils to change what they need. Because you'll find that not very often we get told no, especially if somebody's got a good reason for wanting to be able to use a particular place.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, you just have the contacts in the right places, don't you?
We do. It's very important. One thing that we, even now when it comes to pre-planning your own funeral service, working with that same director, we're giving people the opportunities to be able to do a couple of things: create their own eulogies, and they can deliver their own eulogy if they really want to.
But the option of being able to have it filmed and cut and pasted so that it is perfect and it is word perfect would be take the weight off your shoulders for sure.
And it's going to be called Hear My Story.
Hear My Story.
So
I love that.
It can be used in lots of different ways. It can just be used as history to pass on from one generation to the next. You can sit on the shelf and you can get grandma's story out. It could be used for putting on at the wake.
Yeah.
So that you can hear the person's story from their perception.
From their, yeah.
Or you can use portions of it or parts of it within the actual funeral service. So now people
I can just imagine somebody, speaking from the grave. They're up there on a big screen saying, "Okay, you buggers, you can have a drink on me now. I'm buying."
That'll be me.
That'll be you, will it?
That'll be me.
Okay, you can all. I'm buying. It's my shout.
So no, but I'd love for the fact if I knew something was wrong with me, that I can get in someone, like Purslowe's to be able to pre-arrange and help pre-plan.
Well, heaven forbid this doesn't happen for a very long time. I'll touch wood and spit 3 times, being Greek that I am. I think you'll be around for a lot longer than that.
Oh, one would hope so.
I think so.
And the technology that might be around then, it might be a little hologram that comes up in the corner.
Well, that's right. You may never really go. You may never go. That's right. You may be a hologram in the corner.
You'll do me out of work if you say we'll never go. But
well, because we know that will never happen.
Very true.
It is a certainty. It is a certainty.
That's for sure.
Yes, Carol could have you around for much longer then.
Hey, look, who knows?
Daniel, thank you so much. I know we're laughing, and lifting the lid is a segment that we talk about death and dying, and we're not making fun of it. We're just taking a different look at it, a different perspective, a way of normalising and as we say, demystifying the funeral process.
And it's very important that we start and we continue to talk about it.
We should talk about it. It is definitely something.
It helps everybody through that process.
It does indeed. Daniel McKeig from Purslowe Funeral Homes, thank you so much for joining me on the Sattler Files. We'll be back shortly with more.